Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel UFO World. My name is Laszlo and I'm your host. Today I had the pleasure of speaking to Samuel Chong, who's a certified court interpreter and Chinese translator based in LA. However, his work is best known within the UFO research space, in particular with the promotion and investigation of Michel Desmarquet's book, The Thiaoouba Prophecy, The Golden Planet. This book, which Chong helped to translate and publish in Chinese, details Desmarquet's alleged abduction to an advanced extraterrestrial civilization on the planet Thiaoouba. So Chong's work primarily focused on breaking down the messages from this book, which he believes offer hope and guidance for creating a better world. So having read the book and having spoken to Chong, it is really an incredible book and touches on so many different things which I'm sure people will resonate with. Today we speak about how we met Michel, which was quite interesting. Literally like Indiana Jones, went there on his own with a picture and with just a picture of his door and went there to see him. He discussed the dangers to Earth, religion, ancient civilizations and the functions of the pyramids, the main threats to humanity, the disclosure process, the spiritual aspects and astral bodies, colors and frequencies, and so much more. It's truly an invigorating conversation. So if you do enjoy today's video, do hit that like and subscribe button. Really appreciate that, and it does help out the channel. And of course, do check out Samuel Chong's work. I'll leave all the links in the description and a link to the book for you to purchase it there. With that being said, I hope you enjoyed today's video. Hello, Samuel. How are you today?
Good, very good. Thanks for having me here.
No, pleasure. Appreciate you taking the time to have this conversation with me today. Appreciate you on the other side of the world in Los Angeles as well. So yeah, really appreciate you jumping on board. Look, obviously today is going to be a great discussion around the Thiaoouba Prophecy. And before we kind of delve into all of that as well, as is a very exciting topic itself, just for the viewers as well who might not be completely familiar with you and who you are and what you've been doing, do you mind giving a very quick overview of yourself and also like how you got into the UFO topic?
Sure. As you mentioned, my name is Samuel Chong. I'm a certified court interpreter and a Chinese translator currently residing in Los Angeles. I came to the United States at the age of 15. But since I was young, I was always interested in exploring the unknown, the paranormal, the mysteries of the world. Like I was always wondering who built the Great Pyramid. Was it really built using slaves or was it something else? What really happens in the Bermuda Triangle? And what happens in the stories in the Bible, like Jesus and Christ and during Exodus? So I had a fascination about the paranormal and the unknown. I was always looking for answers. So I thought if the ETs can come and visit us, they must have advanced knowledge and information. We can just learn from them and to progress at a much faster pace. So in my subconscious mind, I was always looking for information from the ET contactees. So after I arrived in the US, I was searching for information like that. I went to different groups and I searched online. So I accidentally found this book, Thiaoouba Prophecy, that really answers all the questions I had in mind. So that's how I got here.
Got it. Okay. And thank you for correcting me. It's Thiaoouba. I called it Thiaoouba, but it's Thiaoouba. Got it. Even the characters, I think they begin with a th as opposed to a t. So super. I mean, it's always one little thing that kind of grabs our attention. But I mean, like myself, I've always been very curious and had these questions about how things are created and some of the history and historical things. They didn't really, I wouldn't say completely resonate with me, especially the pyramids, right? Because of how they're built and stuff like that. So it sounds like you've always been very curious. And was there anything in particular that kind of put you into the UFO topic itself? As there could be lots of different routes and methods in terms of answering that curiosity. But yeah, what put you into the UFO domain itself?
You know, in China in the 80s, it was very open to this kind of information. There was a UFO magazine in China in which the elementary school students and also the younger people, they always look into that because there's something very interesting. And as a young child myself, I was very into this kind of information. And also in China, there was a lot of ancient stories like fairy tales in which people can just become like godlike or goddess-like, having this kind of super psychic abilities and supernatural abilities. And I thought that if the ETs can come and visit us, they must have this kind of information to really tell us how to become those kind of psychic Superman. So
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
that's in my subconscious mind.
Got it. Got it. Okay, cool. Super. And how did you kind of meet Michel Desmarquet then? What was the story behind that?
So the reason for me to really track him down was in the postscript of the book. It says there are far more interesting and important information that he was told, but not instructed not to write in the book because we were far from understanding them. The book is really incredible to me. This tremendous amount of information, and but there's more incredible information that he wasn't allowed to write in the book. I wanted to ask him in person and to reveal the secret, the information that he didn't write in the book. And I tracked him down, and I found him on the internet that he was living somewhere in southern Vietnam, but I didn't know the exact address. But there was a tourist who took a picture, a photo of his bungalow, and posted on the internet. So I copied that picture and printed it out. And I flew to that island in Vietnam, and I showed the
Wow.
picture to the local taxi driver and asked him to drive me there, and he took me there.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. That is, I mean, you really jumped into the deep end and you just went with your gut and intuition. It was like a bit like Indiana Jones. You just went there with a picture, held up, and just like take me to that address. And what did he say then when you kind of knocked on his door?
Well, he was not very happy to see me for some reason. He was a very private person,
Yeah.
and he didn't want people just to find him because of the book. He was okay to meet people accidentally who didn't know about the book, but for people like me, who was very specific for certain information and to track him down, he was a little bit annoyed, and he
Mm.
asked me to read the book a few more times and to get the answers.
Oh, really, really. And then eventually, after you kind of read a bit more, obviously you generated a relationship with him as well. And then did he at all unveil some of this stuff that was at the book? Because obviously I've read it. And by the way, guys, if you're watching this, you need to read this book. I'll be honest with you, when I first read it, there's a lot of stories about people being abducted to go to different planets and stuff. So I've read it with an open mind, of course. I didn't know what the context was, but having read it, it resonates with so many different things and it offers answers on how the mysteries of the world and Earth were created and how we came to be in many ways. So it's very interesting. But did he, at the end of it, without spoiling it too much, he did say there was a lot more and stuff he wasn't able to unveil. Was he able to tell you some of that stuff, and are you able to share that at all?
Yes, he told me during my second trip of my visit to him. Uh, During my first trip, I was trying to get him to talk about it, but he refused. But he asked me to follow up with a contract he signed with a Chinese publisher because the publisher paid him $2,000 for
Hmm.
the royalty right or copyright fees to get the book published in China, but never got back to him after they paid him. And he wanted to see if the book was published or not. It turned out that the publisher paid him but didn't want to publish the book because of the fear of the censorship in China. And he wanted me to find a different publisher to get it published. And I got it down. That's why he invited me to Vietnam for the second time, in
Mm.
which he said he was instructed to reveal the information to me, in which I was able to reveal some of the clues in my article. And the title of the article is "The Second Coming of Christ," something like that. So people who want to know more about that can read the article and to find the clues.
I see. Okay, cool. So there's a couple of things then. Firstly, I would include a link in the description to the article. I haven't read it as of yet, so I'll definitely check that out. And you're saying you was instructed to he was Michelle was instructed to share the information with you. So he was in contact with these beings, and they kind of gave him the go ahead to kind of give the information to you. Is that right?
Yes, but he told me not to tell it to anyone else because that's the instruction he received from them. But he didn't tell me to not to write an article and to reveal many clues as possible. That's what I did because I want people to know what's coming in the future, and I want people to know the general direction without giving the specifics.
Got it. Okay. I guess I mean I was speaking to I think you know Grant Cameron, don't you?
Yes.
Yeah. I spoke to him maybe a month ago. I had a podcast with him, and I had such a good conversation with him. Incredible, very enlightening. And what he said to me was that the point or the objective of these beings or higher intelligence, however you want to deem it, is for them to open the door to curiosity. So it changes and warps our perception of what we think life is and how we came to be. And that once that person has that curiosity, in the same way you just jumped and went to another country because you were so eager to find out, it causes this person to really dig deeper and find out what's ongoing. So I guess, and I'm kind of, maybe I'm putting stuff into your words here, so you can correct me if I'm wrong. But have you done that as a way to create curiosity for people to delve in and find out the information themselves?
Yes, that's right. But just to be a little bit knowledgeable about the article is that it gives many clues, but it doesn't give the specifics. It relates to what's going to happen in the future. So does the book, The Thiaoouba Prophecy. It's a
Mm,
book of warnings. It warns us that if we don't change the way we live, we're going to be heading a catastrophe. So it
mm,
talks about the dangers, the real dangers on Earth. Number one being money.
yeah.
Number two, politicians. Number three, journalists and drugs. Number four, religions. So it's a book. It's a book of warnings, and people should pay attention to.
Yeah. Okay. Good. I mean, just I guess for viewers as well, and for his story itself, do you mind giving a quick, I guess, snapshot of what happened to him? Are you able to do that, like a some, and then we can break it down in terms of the particulars as well? But what exactly happened to him? What was his experience?
Yes, it happened in 1987 in the middle of the night, sometime in the summer, our summer, their winter. Uh, and he woke up suddenly in the middle of the night. He didn't know why, but he wrote a note to his wife saying that he'll be gone for 10 days and there's absolutely no need to worry about him. And he walked outside of his house. He was lifted up and everything changed because he was taken into a parallel universe where he saw different kind of people wearing strange clothes, like people wearing medieval clothes. And then he met this kind of very tall, beautiful ET being. Her name is Tao. It's like a Nordic looking. And she took him, she explained to him what happens in the Bermuda Triangle and what happens in a parallel universe and why they took him to a parallel universe before they take him to their spacecraft. It's because they didn't want people on Earth to see their spacecraft. So they used the parallel universe as a transit station, like a hiding place, so that they can be discreet. And they took him to their spacecraft and they began the journey. And Michel Desmarquet didn't really expect that to happen, so he was kind of fearful in the very beginning, but he felt great compassion and love from these people, not just the person who took him, but also their companions, their like colleagues. And they start a journey to the planet Thiaoouba, which is also pronounced as Jehovah in French,
Mm,
is similar to the pronunciation of Jehovah, which does have a connection to the planet, the people on the planet. Um, and So he was told about the history of mankind, the history of Earth, where we all came from. And actually, different races of people came from different planets, and also the start of the universe and the planets and the stars, our solar system, and also other systems in the galaxy, and also their involvements, their interventions throughout the history of Earth. Um, it talks about the stories in the Bible, like Exodus, Sodom and Gomorrah, the destructions of the two cities, and also the birth of Jesus and the resurrection of Christ. It also talks about different things like the human energy field or auras, the importance of interpreting the different colors of auras, the dangers of noise to the astral body, reincarnation, what happened in the ancient civilizations, how they built the Great Pyramid of Egypt, and where the statues on Easter Island came from, what happens on Lemuria and Atlantis, and things like that. It's like a book that connects all dots together.
mm.
resolving or solving the mysteries of people. It also talks about ghosts,
mm,
where ghosts come from, and what are ghosts, how we can like understand more about the evolution of mankind. Um, and also the political structure in ancient civilizations and how we can improve our current political system, as well as what we need to do to improve our future and also individually as well. Yeah, things like that.
cool. Okay. So I guess I want to jump into some of the stuff here because I do have some questions. But before we go into that, out of this book, what was the most profound thing for you, or if there might be a couple, but for you, what was the thing that really grabs you? 'Cause there's a couple of things that grabbed me. So what was that for you?
The information that really shocked me when I read it for the first time was the information about Jesus and
Mm,
Christ. I was curious from the very, very beginning since I came to the US because I attended church. So I was curious why Jesus in the Bible never performed miracles before the age of 30.
mm,
And suddenly he was able to do that and started preaching. So there's a gap. If like a normal person, like he was born like the son of God, if that's the case, then he would have been able to show his ability since he was young, like as a teenager. But why there's just a
mm.
sudden change of him, and why there's a tomb of Jesus in Shingo Village, Japan, and why people say that Jesus went to India during his missing years. And this book explains perfectly and logically what really happened.
So what did happen then with that? Because I know when I read that as well, that was shocking for me as well. But the fact that he had a couple of daughters as well, right? As well, there's a couple of things he added to that. So what does the prophecy say, or the book say about Jesus itself then?
So there are two different beings. I would say one is Jesus and the other is Christ. Jesus, the one born from Virgin Mary, was indeed born from Virgin Mary. He was born from the embryo implanted by the ETs just to fulfill the prophecy, just to show that someone extraordinary was going to be born that way. Because he was born from the embryo implanted into the uterus of Virgin Mary, he couldn't perform miracles, even though he was highly intelligent, having a very profound, in depth conversation with the teachers of the temple. But when the astral body goes into the embryo, it has to pass through what the ancient Nagas call the river of oblivion, forgetting all the past, the reincarnations, the knowledge to perform miracles. So that young Jesus was the one who couldn't perform miracles, who went to India and traveled to China and died in Japan. So there's a tomb of Jesus in Shingo Village, Japan, Shingo, that people can still visit and to
Wow.
see how they try to connect the dots and to explain why Jesus went to Japan and suddenly reappeared in Jerusalem. But Christ, on the other hand, is a different being. Is a person from the planet Jehovah or Theoba who um, was like they made a body of that resembled Jesus and had a ET to go into that body made by them to perform in order to perform miracles, so that they can convince the people that he was someone really really special, so that his teachings and preachings would be believed by the people. As you know, people nowadays and people in the past are highly skeptical. They wouldn't just believe anything that people say unless that person or the people can perform miracles. So
Mhm.
that's the reason why they had to have their own people, a person like Christ, to come down to earth to perform miracles so that his teachings can be believed by the people at that time.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. I didn't know there was a tomb in Japan as well. For Jesus as well. So, the Bible itself. I'm not particularly religious. I believe I've always. I mean, I was born and raised as a Roman Catholic. I went to Roman Catholic school. I've been baptized, Holy Communion, all that stuff. But for me, as I got older, I perceived as religion as a form of control. And I've always to say to my mum and people as well, they're like, "Why are you not religious?" I'll be like, I feel like the Bible, whatever it was before, has been transformed so much. The true message itself. I mean, if it's a holy book and it's being changed consistently, then for me that removes the holiness because it's not the initial message, right? So I always said I believe it's something powerful. I wasn't sure what that was. For me, it's obviously alien beings or something like that, or just a higher intelligence. But the story itself around how they depicted his story itself was quite. It was very interesting, especially the bit when he saw the body in the psychosphere, right?
Yeah.
Towards yeah. Can you talk us through that? What happened exactly? Because I was like, are they? I was kind of shocked reading it. I was like, is this actually happening? And it was funny because he tried to touch as well, didn't he? And they were
Yes.
like, as you being skeptical again.
So everything that we do here on Earth is recorded by what Michel Desmarquet called the psychosphere, and what other people would call the Akashic record. It's like a cocoon that vibrates at 7 times the speed of light, that records everything that happens on our planet. So Michel Desmarquet was taken by the ETs to the psychosphere 14,500 years ago in the past, when the continent of Lemuria was still existing in the Pacific Ocean, where he saw his body, his past life, his reincarnated body, his past body, and then what happened during the natural catastrophe when the entire continent sunk into the ocean. So he witnessed what happened when Lemuria was like destroyed by a natural disaster, and that's the thing that really left me a deep impression, because before then, people on the continent had a very great, very advanced civilization. People didn't use money. They didn't need to use money because no one took advantage of each other. They just grabbed things from the marketplace and just took whatever they needed without waste. And they had advanced technologies like anti-gravitational technologies, and also supersonic vibratory system to cut huge stones in a very precise manner. So they were able to make the statues on Easter Island very easily.
Mm-hmm.
Because with anti-gravitational technologies, the huge stones will become weightless without weight. They built a great pyramid that's 3 times as large as the pyramid of Egypt, because they had the knowledge. But suddenly everything was destroyed, and because it didn't really pass on the knowledge to other people on different other continents, so the knowledge was lost, and so that's a kind of a sad story. And if it weren't for the natural disaster, we would have a much better civilization on Earth.
Yeah. No, exactly. And I mean, the whole thing around, I think it was it called the Kingdom of Mu? Was that right?
Yes.
It was Kingdom. That's what I mean. Yeah. Okay. The if I can recall as well, Tao, she was, or they was telling Michelle that they can't always get involved as well because it kind of gets in. It's up to us to kind of make our own mistakes as well. That was kind of what I kind of got from it as well. So that was quite interesting. Do you and the people from Mu, they also consisted of people from Atlantis. Is that right?
Yes, the people from Atlantis visited Mu or Lemuria, and actually, the people from Lemuria colonized Atlantis. So they pass on some of the knowledge to some of the people on Atlantis. One of the people was Thoth, the person who actually built the Great Pyramid of Egypt, because he was a wise and learned person, and he built the Great Pyramid of Egypt in 9 years using the same technologies that he learned from the people in Lemuria. And the Pyramid of Egypt wasn't built using slaves, like,
Hmm.
at all. Because if you just use your gut feelings, your intuition, you just know that with 200,000 slaves or 40 years period of time, it just couldn't have happened. It just couldn't happen with the human technology of present day.
Hmm.
And also, it talks about the functions of pyramid, why they build it. Because whenever a great civilization is established, And when people are ready, they used the pyramid. They built a great pyramid and used it as a tool to communicate with people from other planets, because they're spiritually ready to do that, and also to make rain, because it functions as an energy center. It can concentrate cosmic and terrestrial energies in a way that the information or signals can be projected from the top of the pyramid into other spaces or other dimensions. Um, so that's the function of the pyramid. It's not a tomb of pharaohs. It's an energy center. And
That's been
modern
talked
science,
about
yes,
before, right? That's been talked about. But there's been I think that's one of the common theories around the pyramids, that they're energy devices,
yes.
especially because of the way they're aligned as well. Um, uh, um,
Yes, and actually, modern scientists and a lot of people have proven that it's actually energy center. And even University of Reading, they did an experiment to make rain happen in the atmosphere, because they projected what they would call the organ energy, and to ionize the sky and to make clouds form and the rain would fall.
right. Okay. Interesting. Was there any other use for the pyramids, or was it mainly just a energy device and a way of communicating?
Yes, the two functions, yeah, the energy device and also to make rain are the two main functions of the pyramid.
Okay, super. And is there any? I mean, you mentioned before about the tomb in Japan for Jesus. Is there any kind of historical knowledge which kind of relates to the story itself that Michelle shared? Is there anything in particular that you know of which could kind of relate to what happened in terms of the history of humanity, I guess?
Yes, we are not evolved from apes or gorillas at all. We
Mm,
actually came from different planets. According to this book, the blacks and the yellows, like the Chinese, and they came from a planet called Bakratini about 1.35 million years ago. And the ancestors of the Polynesians came from a different planet called Arimal X3 about 250,000 years ago. And the Caucasians came later, and the Jewish people came the latest, about 12,000 years ago, from a different planet called Hebra. So, in that sense, the Jewish people are unique because they came from a planet of a different category. So, there are a total of 9 different categories of planets in the universe. We are currently living on category 1 planet, the lowest category. And the Giovans, the Thiaoubans, they live on category 9 planet, the highest category. So they're just like college professors, and we are just like elementary school students learning the
yeah.
basics. They guide us, they teach us the principles. So the reason they instructed Michel Desmarquet to write his experience of visiting their planet is to just give us a warning, and to teach us the basic principles of life, so that we can hopefully change our ways of living. Because as you know, as we know, we are currently having a lot of issues on Earth, not just environmentally, but also um, politically as well. There are so many conflicts, especially in the last a year or 2 years or so, also 4 or 5 years ago. So certain things don't happen just naturally, and I do see that there are people manipulating and also making things happen in the wrong direction.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the parts of the message, and I think it was related also to the Bacacatarians, I think they're called, what you said before, was
Accurate.
that it seemed like it was a a common issue where atomic energy and nuclear and or atomic power was a common theme in terms of mass destruction and destroying other worlds and other planets as well. And it seems like we're on a potentially a similar path if things do escalate continually. But yeah, the whole atomic thing of it, that was kind of interesting because we're obviously in a space right now where we on the verge. Well, they say on the verge, but touch wood, nothing happens. But it does make me fearful that other people, other planets before, have gone through a similar thing, but they had the means to kind of travel here. If we were to do it, we'll just be over. That's pretty much it. Would you say that's one of the main concerns of the message from this prophecy?
Well, they say that the atomic bombs are discovered and rediscovered on many, many different planets. And that actually will cause self-destruction. But that's really not the main danger on Earth right now. It's actually the psyche of the people. It's the
Mm,
way that people live. It's the spiritual evolvement level of the people on Earth. That's actually their main concern, because when a person dies, when people die, their physical bodies die, but the astral bodies will continue to evolve. But if the astral bodies, the spiritual aspect of the person, like gets damaged or doesn't evolve, then that's the main concern, because that defeats the purpose of the creation of human beings or mankind. Because according to them, when God created human beings, it inserted a tiny portion of itself, the creator
mhm.
itself, into the astral bodies of each one of us, so that God or the creator can experience what we experience in life. So the purpose is to evolve and to really evolve spiritually. So that's the main purpose of life, because God itself is a spirit, pure spirit. It doesn't have a physical body to experience everything we experience. So that's why the Creator just inserts a tiny portion of itself to each one of us, so that we can send the feedback to the Creator.
Yeah, yeah, I got it. Is that your take? Is that your belief even on kind of this higher intelligence? Then that it is just something all powerful, and it's just trying to experience what life is, I guess, and that's why there's our objective, I guess, or mission in general is to constantly evolve spiritually. Knowledge as well is a big part of it as well. Is that kind of your belief around it then, or correct me if I'm wrong as well?
Yes, that's right. And also, the book talks about when you encounter challenges, you should look inside for answers, and not to follow a specific religion, and definitely not a Christian religion at all.
Well, I mean,
Because because you should follow the teaching of Christ, but not the religious order, the organized religion. Um, even though the teaching of Christ is something that been distorted by the Catholic Church Council meetings, and the book specifically listed the 4 different council meetings in which the ancient scriptures were intentionally distorted.
hmm
So the book has a lot of specific information. So this is why I think the book is very credible, because people anyone can just speak about vague messages or general principles, but this book has a very interesting and specific information that people can verify. For example, I did a lot of research and on the specific information the book provided, the 4 Catholic Church Council meetings that distorted the original ancient scriptures, and I found them to be very, very interesting. They had a lot of debates and arguments, and then they decided one way, which led to the Christian religion today, which kind of made a lot of people going in the wrong direction. Because when Christ came, he was meant to destroy religion, the ancient
Oh, I see.
practices. He wasn't meant to really start a religion.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Makes sense. It makes sense. Do you think that? I mean, it makes a lot of sense as well. I mean, the church itself. I mean, it as we've both just said as well. It once there was something just there at one point, likely, but that's been distorted. But I still think the Bible itself is still very interesting for me because I believe there's a lot of wisdom in there and there's a lot of philosophy in there which we can work with. But it's obviously been distorted over the years. But I think it's quite funny that you say that his job was to kind of destroy religion because it's been organized and misshaped. And you look at the church, how much money they have as well. I mean, that's for me was the biggest question mark initially as well, because I was like, if they've got so much money, then why are they not helping people around the world? Why have they got golden statues? If God is, this is when I was very young as well. It's like, if God is all powerful and is omnipotent and, you know, is a spirit and not materialistic, why is he painted and depicted in this golden statue? Right? So I'm at my local church, that's what they had there. So that for me was question it. So the money things as well, about the issues around it, makes complete sense. But um yeah, I guess the point of us evolving spiritually as well is to not look externally, as you said as well, is to look internally, because we have the answers. It requires the right attention and patience and virtues to actually look internally. But then there's a lot of distractions out there, which I mentioned consistently in the book as well. What would you say is the in terms of the spirituality aspects, what would you say is the main kind of like takeaway in terms of what we need to do to evolve spiritually?
I would say is to have spiritual knowledge and to be compassionate to others and to love one another. And I think that's basically the teachings of Christ. But when Christ came here, he had to use a lot of um, kind of parables to make people understand in the ancient past, because people were not really advanced in the past, and now we have modern technologies and we can understand better. So this book came and just to show us that we should one way is to follow the teachings of Christ, that the real teachings of Christ, and the other is to have knowledge and know what's really going on in the world. And I think if you look at the politics, if you look at what's happening commercially in business world, people always want money and power, and also people also need to look behind the scenes. In the United States, people think that it's either the Republican Party or the Democratic Party, and people should look behind the scenes and know that there's a group of people pulling the strings, and running the show behind, just like the puppet show.
Yeah,
So whether it's the Republican or the Democrat Party goes into the power, they're always winning because they control both. And people need to know this and to make the right choices in the future, and also have independent thoughts.
mm-hmm.
Uh, a lot of the businesses are controlled by the powerful multinational corporations, and they suppress clean technologies. And in fact, if you look at the if you dig deeper, you're going to see that a scientist or engineer in the United States called Stanley Meyer invented a vehicle, a car that ran on water. So he was able to split water molecules into uh, oxygen and hydrogen atoms, and use hydrogen atoms and also other forms of energy to make the vehicle run on water. But then he mysteriously died before he was
Yeah,
able to commercialize the vehicle. And also in the health world, like there are ways to really cure diabetes or type 2 diabetes, to be more specific, but it's whether is the information is intentionally or unintentionally suppressed, not known by, not made public to the people. And people, like, if they just into look outside their comfort zone and to seek for such information, they are able to have better lives. And just people need to be a little bit more diligent and to know that what they're being told is not always necessarily true. I mean, by the mainstream media.
absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I think it's, you know, it's something that's actually frustrating me when I was a bit younger as well. I've kind of accepted it now because people would automatically, I mean, they're conformed. You get the educational system, they go through the routes, and the people. I think ignorance is bliss, right? As well. So it's easier for them to just follow, and I mean, they think it's easier, but it's not internally, realistically. But it's easier to just accept and go with the flow, and not really question things as well, because they're scared that it's going to challenge their belief system. And I think part of why I've had my own personal experiences as well, and why I'm pretty sure a lot of people, and why you've had your interest as well, is that you've had the ability to kind of step past that and be okay with it, right? It doesn't matter. It doesn't make you incorrect or not human or whatever. For me, I like having my belief systems challenged. It's curiosity. It's part of life. But I think that some people, it's easier for them because of the stresses and the portrayal that if you don't follow this particular route, then you won't be successful, or you won't get this, or if you don't work a 9 to 5 job and start a family and kind of do this and retire at 60 after you've worked your whole life tired, like that's rubbed into our psyche. So it's one of the reasons why I wanted to start this channel and jump onto this whole movement as well, because as you've said as well, I think part of it is to open up people's perceptions on and challenge their belief systems. And all it needs is one little seed, one little book like this, a little book. I say little, but it's profound. And just to kind of question that. And once that seed is there, it hopefully would start to bloom. And then they start to look into it deeper. And then they're like, oh, I didn't know that. I didn't know that. So I think that's one thing. And also with the political system, it's bullshit because, excuse the French, it's not really French. I don't know where that comes from. It's French. It might be a British thing. I don't know. But like, I've always like, it's like the definition of what Einstein says, doing the same thing again, expecting the same results. These people, it's like, we're going to change this. We're going to do this. We're going to do this. We're going to do this. And you get another person saying, we're going to do this. We're going to do this. You get two parties battling. One of them wins. They don't do half the stuff. Then the other party goes, well, now we're going to do this instead. And it just goes round and round and round in circles. There's nothing profound. This is why I think that, and it'd be good to get your take as well on the whole UFO disclosure process. I feel like we need something to ultimately connect us and wake us up, like a spiritual, metaphorical, maybe a tap on the shoulder, not a slap, might be too aggressive, but someone just to be like, hey guys, wake up. There's something more ongoing. That's why I'm very interested in this subject as well. But yeah, what is your take on the whole UFO disclosure thing? Do you think that's going to be the thing that wakes us up, or do you think it's more of an individual process?
I think people always want the disclosure process to come from the top. Like me in the very beginning, I always thought if I can change the ways of thinking of some of the leaders, and then things would turn out to be better. And people want to go to the Congress, the presidents, and to get them to act. But I think is if you look at the history, great revolutions always come from the grassroots level, so the bottom-up process, not from top-down process. Mm-hmm. So I think it's better to have a grassroots movement and to get people to wake up from the grassroots level. So, I was focusing on a lot of the bigger podcasts before, but I think from now on, I'm going to be focusing on people who just start up and to really get the words out to the people who might not necessarily just have this kind of political influence, because my focus is going to be just try to have this kind of build up this fundamental momentum at the grassroots level in different countries, so that hopefully the people who are going to be benefiting from the information are going to be the people who are kind of day-to-day people, not just the power, some of the people who have influence.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think, like that's testament to you, because there's some people who wouldn't accept podcast requests as well, and I think what you've done. See, I think for this subject, and I say this to people, I was like, it's not about me. This is about humanity and other people as well. That's what it's about. So you have to shed the ego, really, because that's what's at stake, realistically, because the UFO topic is spiritual, and I was very much in touch and thinking it was complete physical. And I've said this before, where I had a person told me it's spiritual. This is like 7 years ago. And it started talking about all the consciousness connection. I was like, I'm done. I'm out. This is too weird for me. This was me 6 years ago or so, 7 years ago. And through my own journey itself, it's absolutely connected. There's no doubt. So, but to be fully connected to this, you have to kind of shed the ego as well. And I think you're right. The kind of grassroots stuff, because the mainstream media places as well, they're not going to portray the full information. They're going to ship and shape it to suit the narrative as they've always been doing. But a grassroots effect will come forward. So you're basically saying that you think that it's going to be more of an underground movement to get this message out. So I mean, I was on board before with the right way of doing it, like high level through official disclosure, but I wouldn't say recently, but like I've definitely come to terms now that maybe they call it catastrophic disclosure or something like that to get the truth out, because these guys are not going to give the information out without a fight, clearly.
Right. And if you really look at what Christ did, he didn't really try to change the ways of thinking of the king. He started from the regular people. So I
True.
think it's probably better that way. It's more effective, more efficient that way. But I'm also connected to people like Danny Sheehan, who try to kind of disclose
Yeah, he's great.
the information from the top. But I think I'm going to work the other way.
Yeah, no, he's great though, but he's trying to do his own grass movement stuff as well.
Yeah.
He's got a whole aspect of that movement as well, because he understands it comes from underneath, and it may take a bit longer to do. But if we continually hitting our head against a brick wall and getting pushed back and pushed back and pushed back, I mean, we had Cornell yesterday, literally at the SALT conference, like literally say that he's 100% certain that there's an alien presence, and we've been interacting with them. He said that. I mean, if we go back 10 to 15 years ago and we had someone at his level saying that, but now it's getting more accepted, but the media and so forth, they're really like holding that down. So it's going to take more of an underground magma. It's boiling up. I would have thought so anyway. But okay, cool. So I just wanted to flip back to the Thiaoouba book as well, because I was really interested as well with the elders. When Michel met I think it was 7 of them, and they had this glow around them. I mean, everyone had an aura there anyway, but they had a really powerful glow, and they were very yogi-like, like in a meditative mantis type pose. Like, can you tell me a bit about them and what happened exactly, and your thoughts in general?
So they are called the Tauras or Taurai. So they're the high masters of their planet, 7 of them, and they can unite and reunite with the creator of the universe, or God, or the great ether, what they call them. So they appear and disappear always frequently. So they have to keep their physical bodies intact intentionally for Michel Desmarquet to see them. They're able to perform, of course, all the miracles that's performed by Christ. So one example is that they made Michel Desmarquet having the ability to see the colors of auras, which he didn't before he met them. And they made Michel Desmarquet understand all the languages in the universe. So this is very interesting that they led like a ET being from a different planet to meet with him, and then giving him the ability to speak and communicate with different languages, and he was able to understand what the other ET was saying to him. And this is very interesting, is that the other ET, that ET is very kind of ugly ET, like a square-shaped ET, and he said that their people visited Earth long time ago and frequently, but they didn't intervene because our way of living is not to be envied by them. You understand? This is like a euphemism. They're saying that our ways of living is so bad that they didn't really want to get involved.
So, didn't want to be tainted or polluted.
Yes. So this is like, but back to the 7 masters. They taught Michel Desmarquet a lot of very interesting information about how we should become more spiritually, and also how we evolve, because we the astral bodies have different levels. Like people on Earth are living on category 1 planet, and if we evolve, we can evolve to live on category 2 planet if we are ready, and then move up the ladder. And then Michel Desmarquet also explains that once you move up, your physical body and your astral body are going to be more perfect or perfected, in the sense that you're going to live longer, you're going to have more psychic powers, and you're going to be like them or like Christ once you reach that level because you have more electrons in your astral body. And then, but you have to go through the step-by-step process. You have to go through the filtering system. And in order to progress at a much faster pace, in order to evolve faster, you should focus more on how to be more spiritual in the sense that how to love others better and more, and how to become more compassionate to others. And also it explains a lot of things like reincarnation and how the higher self, um, which is connected to the astral body, is able to um, make things happen so that when you have an accident, you wouldn't die when time is not up. So through the adrenal glands. So there are a lot of very specific information that I would strongly suggest people to look into that. Very profound information and specific knowledge.
Yeah, no, exactly. And what in particular these elders they did, I remember one of them just like levitated over and they touched his maybe his temple. I mean, I was reading the book, so I can't maybe not impersonating the actual finger correctly, but they touched his pineal gland as well, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah.
Um, and I mean, obviously, that's got a huge connection to the spiritual domain itself. So I thought that was quite interesting. And you mentioned the kind of techniques. I mean, is there anything in particular? I mean, is it like meditation? Obviously, you're talking about love and compassion, but is meditation one aspect as well? Is there like harnessing your intuition through particular things, or what kind of techniques do you think he was suggesting?
He was suggesting people to have spiritual knowledge and to meditate and concentrate. So by meditation, people can really look inside for answers. By looking inside, what it means is that you go into this kind of meditative state, and then you are able to connect with your higher self, which directs or maybe informs of the things that you need to do through or telepathically through your intuition or other means. So you're going to know which way to take or which directions to take. So that's the way to really um, be like that's a way to look for answers. And the other way to look for answers is to have a good night of sleep, because in dreams people also connect, or the astral body is also able to connect with the higher self, which kind of plans the whole life of a person. And also concentration is also important because this is the way to perform miracles. I can tell that if you read the book, if you read the book, you're gonna know that people on Jehovah or Theoba, they never age. They're always looking like in their 30s,
Yeah.
forever young, forever beautiful, because they can regenerate their body tissues and cells. They can levitate, they can materialize objects, they can communicate through telepathy, they can do all the things as documented in the Bible as did by Christ, um, because they're able to do that through this kind of magic, by meditation and concentration. And I read the other books. There's a book titled "The Magnets of Java," talking about John Chen, like uh, a kind of qigong master, neikun master in Indonesia, Chinese
Mhm.
qigong master in Indonesia, who was able when he was alive, he was able to use his intention to burn a piece of paper. This is documented on films.
I bet. So crazy.
So he described how he was able to do that, and he increased his ability to do that through meditation. So the ETs also tell us to meditate to increase our ability to communicate with our higher self and to increase our psychic abilities. So I think that's very important.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, there's so many profound stories around kind of the meditation and what you can achieve from it. And I think, I mean, the way my take on meditation is, because I'm at this weird conjunction or weird combination where it's like I still have to test it for myself, or I have to which I'm trying to let go of, by the way, because I feel like you have to be completely open, and I'm definitely much improved with it. But I'm kind of like, I have to research the data behind it. So when it comes to meditation and stuff like that, I think the quantum field is a great way to kind of confirm its effects in terms of, and also frequency, for example. And I know, having read the book, The Spirit Molecule, which talks about DMT releasing the pineal gland, and basically what that suggests, what it says is that the pineal gland, it radiates that particular frequency. So when you meditate, that frequency there gets it there, and that kind of creates the experiences where you have these visualizations and that sort of stuff. And I was reading that book actually, and then obviously you was like, I suggest you read this book, The Thiaoouba Prophecy, beforehand. And when I started to read the stuff about sound and colors, that's, do you know what, I asked you the question before about what really took you back? The stuff about colors and sound for me was the one that was really like, I'm sure other bits will land at some point, but the stuff about sound as well was very powerful, and frequencies. And since I've read that as well, I've been looking on Twitter and social media and whatever, and I've seen more information pop up about frequency and how strong, and how the ancients used it as well before in the past. So I guess my question to you, for the viewers, so they know, what was the kind of take on frequency and sound and colors as well? Because there was a big aspect of that, wasn't it? A big part of the whole book.
Yes, the book emphasizes the importance of colors because colors have different vibrations. When Michel Desmarquet was taken into their spacecraft, they disinfected him using yellow light and blue light.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the first mention of colors in the book. And I did some research. It turns out that certain wavelengths of blue light have antibacterial, antiviral
Oh, really?
effects by Harvard Medical School. So they did a
Wow.
study. Yeah. And then just a few years ago, Chinese scientists also discovered that certain yellow light, also have antibacterial effect. So it's kind of a way proving the points made in the book that the ETs used yellow light and blue light to disinfect him, and also, and it turns out that yellow and blue light do have this antibacterial effect. So that's the first mention of color. And also Torah, when the seven masters spoke to him, the main master tells him that people on Earth don't pay attention to color because there are scientists who discover, for example, pink color. When you stare at pink color for about 15 minutes, you lose about 30% of your muscle strength. So,
Yeah.
so this is very interesting because there's a football coach, the American football coach in the University of Iowa, and he painted the locker rooms of the visiting teams into pink color, and he rarely lost a home game. So he used the colors to his advantage. So there are different effects of colors, and actually verified by modern research. For example, the green color. There's a study that shows that green color can alleviate migraines or headaches. And it is so effective that the people participated in the experiment wanted to get the green LED lights for free and to take home with them,
I bet.
and to alleviate their migraines issues. So this is something about the colors. And actually in the 1920s in the United States, chromotherapy or color therapy was very popular back then. And but then the FDA and the special interest groups, they kind of think that they discovered antibiotics, and so they asked the FDA to crack down on the color therapy.
Is
So
that the wrong? Sorry, do you think that's the wrong path then, the antibiotic route, and we should be actually using our natural resources and colors around us to heal?
exactly.
Okay.
And I think natural ways are much better
Yeah.
than antibiotics because for a lot of reasons, there are a lot of bacteria that are better suppressed or killed using garlic than
Mhm.
antibiotics. or using blue light or ultraviolet lights. So I think people should learn from nature and use natural ways to correct different issues.
I love garlic. My partner hates it though because I just smell a lot from it. But no, you're right. I agree with the whole natural side of it, and I've never really liked antibiotics. I mean, I've got a young boy myself, and he had a chest infection before, and we was waiting last minute. Was giving him garlic and stuff like that. But eventually, we had to give it to him. But I was really against it because it's not a. It just felt wrong. It doesn't feel like the natural way. But when the poor guy was ill and stuff, kind of gave in eventually.
I mean, during emergency situations, antibiotics help, but in some of the other chronic illness like situations, I mean, you
A
know,
paracetamol, if you've got a little headache, basically, they're like, "Oh, this is proper paracetamol. I've got a little migraine. Become second, flip it in the air. Let's have that instead of using a natural method or the green. I'm gonna get some green. My next podcast, my whole room's gonna be green. Watch." And you're saying it's related to the frequency as well, the colors itself. There's a connection with that.
Yes, that's right, including sound as well. In the United States, in the 50s or 60s, there was a doctor who invented a way to kind of cause a resonant effect to viruses. And he was able to kind of alleviate cancer symptoms or cure cancer. Um, and and I think there's a way to do a lot of different things. And if you know about Anthony William, the what they would call the medical medium, and he says that cancer is actually caused by viruses and also toxins. So if you focus on kind of inactivating the viruses, you're actually able to solve half of the problem of cancer. And that doctor in the US actually did that using resonant frequencies, coming up with a device that sends out different frequencies and vibrations. And if the viruses resonate with that kind of vibrations, they break apart. So yeah.
So
So
is that it then? Is it the in terms of the frequency? Is it if it connects at the same level with something that has a similar frequency, then that's when it becomes connected, and then that's when it's able to resolve or something like that. How does the frequency connection work in general? Do you know?
yeah, in different ways. For example, in during meditation, when you calm your mind down, then the frequency gets higher. Then you're able to connect with your higher self.
Okay.
So that's the way to calm your mind, because when we are always thinking about certain things, the vibration is actually lower than if you calm your mind down. So that's when you calm your mind down, then you have the resonance effect with your
Mm.
higher self.
So same frequency with the higher self. That means
Yeah.
you're able to connect with it. The same. Okay, got it. Yeah.
Yes, that's the way to do that, and but it's kind of hard to calm the mind down. You have to go into nature and to practice it, or maybe very relaxing environment to do that. And this is the thing that modern people have been lacking, especially people who live in cities. So this is why you see a lot of people who have psychic abilities, psychic powers. They always live in rural parts of the world, or
Mm.
maybe in the mountains and things like that. There's a reason for that.
Not central London where I just hear traffic and there's grey skies and I can see Canary Wharf from here, tall buildings and stuff. Yeah, no, I mean, to be fair, I've started just even before I got the book. I've actually started to populate my room with plants and stuff like that. I don't know. It's just I've just realised that it's all connected. Ultimately, I think we're like it's all one big living organism and everything has some sort of life in it ultimately. And I think that's something that I'm working with right now as well. But the frequency stuff is super interesting because I feel like music as well, when I'm listening to it, this particular music that really kicks me into gear. I listen to a lot of chill step, and there's something about that motivates me and picks me up. And I was listening to some music before and I was like getting goosebumps. And then I thought about the book and I was like sounds and music are so important in terms of, so now I'm being very picky on what I listen to. And I already moved away from, I used to listen to a lot of trap hip hop and all this gangster stuff before, back in my earlier days. But I mean, I listen to it on the occasion, but like very rarely. But now I've become very conscious on what I pick and listen to, because I know it has a frequency and I know the effects it has on me. And that was from the book. So I mean, that's pretty incredible, I think.
Yes, the book has tremendous amount of useful information that can be very helpful to the readers. Before I came on to the UFO world, UAP world, I was kind of interested in earning a lot of money and going into the financial world. So I read a lot of books written by the investment masters like Ray Dalio, and books about Warren Buffett, and written by George Soros, and people like those. But I think this book, Thiaoouba Prophecy, has more value than all those books written by or on the investment masters, because this is the best investment ever made reading this book. It has a tremendous amount of useful information with practical value that people can learn from, and yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those books you have to read a couple of times. As I said, I'm probably going to read it again. I'm reading another book right now, but as I was reading, as soon as I finished this book, I was like, I'll read something else, and I've started to read this other book. But as I'm reading, I'm like, kind of want to read the book again. So I think I'm just going to go, because I think I have a completely new meaning now, because I was reading it. For me as well as a person, some people, they get the information straight away. For me, when I read stuff, I don't know what it is, but I just like I need to let it settle for a bit, or just season and marinate, and then things start popping up for me intuitively, and I start to recognize things, and I think that's what's happening with the book itself right now. We haven't actually talked too much about the actual ETB. I've completely forgot her name now. Was it Tori?
Tao.
Tao, that's it. Yeah, apologies, that's it. She itself. So obviously she's like she was the person who obviously approached Michelle and stuff. But what's interesting as well about the EC Island stuff, because she was there before as well, I believe, and they kind of. So yeah, can you tell us a bit about that, because that was super cool as well.
Yeah, so Easter Island was part of the continent called Lemuria, or the continent of Mu, that existed 14,500 years ago. The continent in itself started emerging from the ocean about 1.3 million years ago, when the three asteroids, actually the one asteroid, hit Earth, causing like a flooding, causing a lot of changes structurally on the plates of Earth. Actually, that's when that's the first reset for the people on Earth. That one asteroid split into three parts. One part hit was now today's Red Sea. The other part hit was now today's East Timor, and the other part hit the Galapagos Islands. And then after that happened, the continent of Lemuria, or Mu, emerged from the Pacific Ocean and became this kind of a large continent that existed for a long time. And then the people from China kind of migrated some of their people to the northwestern corner of that continent and started living there after the catastrophe. And then later on, the people from Ariel X3 came onto the planet about 250,000 years ago. And they actually had a conflict with the Chinese people. So they retreated back to the far side of the moon and built ET bases on the backside of the moon.
Right,
so this is why some people say there are ET bases on the backside of the moon. Yes, they are, and they're actually built according to this book by the people from Ariel X3 as a transfer station to move their people face by face to the continent of Lemuria. And the reason they have to move some of their people to Earth is because of their overpopulation issue on their planet. So this is why I tell people, like, if you really think we have an overpopulation issue, don't kill us, migrate us to different planets. That's the right way to solve the issue. But we actually don't have an overpopulation issue yet.
not yet.
So the people from Arena X3, they built a very ancient and successful civilization, and as I mentioned before, they built a pyramid and they built the the statues on Easter Island because they were really spiritual, advanced spiritually and technologically. People from Arimo X3, the Tao, the people from the Thiaoouba, they came in contact with them,
Mm.
sometimes helping them to colonize other parts of the world, sometimes communicating with the king of Lemuria. And it's very interesting how they elected their king. And this is actually a very interesting way of doing that. We should learn from that because they have a very interesting and very democratic election system in which the best of the best is elected. People, best of best, the people who are compassionate and really into helping the people are elected. Not like nowadays, people who crave for power and fame and prestige are elected.
Yeah.
And so that's when they're ready. The people from remote people from Thiaoouba came in contact with them. Some people ask me like, why don't the ETs just show up? Because we are not ready yet,
Mm.
spiritually, mostly. And when we are ready, we're going to be like the people on Lemuria, and the people from other planets are going to be in direct contact with us, and they're going to show up. And in fact, one of the statues on Easter Island, one of the moas on Easter Island, was molded after Tao,
Hmm.
the guide of Michel Desmarquet.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Because that's when I read that as well. I was like, oh, because I remember she mentioned it at the start, and then later on she went through the story itself. Do you think we've got a long way to go then in terms of being spiritually at that level where they would show contact? Because we've got disclosure happening and all this other well in the process.
I think we do have a long way to go because the book. I'll just give you some information about the article that I wrote regarding the information that Michel Desmarquet wasn't allowed to write in the book. The book talks about the Sodom and Gomorrah, that they were kind of the people who were so evil. The people who live in Sodom and Gomorrah were so evil that the Thebans took action and destroyed the two cities. So the Thebans were responsible for destroying the two cities because they couldn't find a single righteous person or
Mm.
spiritual person. It's not just about sodomy. It's if you read the Jewish uh, ancient texts, you're going to read stories about how um, devious the people were in the two cities. They punished the compassionate people.
Really?
So, for example, they give a account of a little girl who helped the beggars on the street by giving them food or bread or food to eat. But they punished the girl by putting honey onto her body and making the bees to sting her to death. So she cried out loud and asked for help. They also punish the people or visitors. If the visitors like are too tall and they don't fit into a smaller bed, they cut the hands and feet off that visitor.
What the hell?
And if the visitor is too short and they're kind of too short for the bigger bed, they stretched the limbs of the visitor so that they could fit into the beds. So this is how devious, how evil the citizens of the two cities were. They couldn't find a single righteous person. So in order to prevent um, others who were in contact with them being um, like falling into the same path, they destroyed the two cities. It's just like when you have cancer
Yeah.
on your body or cancer's tumor on your body, you have to take the cancer out, the tumor out, to prevent it from spreading to other parts of your body. So this is what they did. So similarly, like when in Noah's time, Noah was told to build an ark, but before that, they took Enoch away. So
Mm.
Enoch actually went away with gods or Theoubans. Michel Desmarquet, after reading the book of Enoch, believed that Enoch was taken away by the same group of people who took him. And there's a book of Enoch,
Yeah.
because Enoch was instructed to, some others were instructed to write a book. And Noah, after a few decades, the great grandson of Enoch, was told to build an ark. So, by similar analogy, Michel Desmarquet, similar to Enoch, was taken by the same group of people, and he was similarly instructed by the same group of people to write a book to warn us that we need to change our actions, we need to change the way we live. And similarly, if you look at what happened to Enoch and to Noah, a few decades later, what's going to happen? Is someone going to be told to build an ark? I don't know. But if we don't change our ways of living, we're going to be heading into catastrophe. The people from Thiaoouba, they're able to see the future, or 100 years into the future, but not farther than that. That means we can change our directions for the better, because what they see is the probabilities what's going to happen, but the future really depends on our actions. It's not too late to change, but we need to take action.
Yes. Yeah. I think it all. I mean, it starts from the top, right? We're being led astray by. I mean, we've got the wrong morals. It's a very material, and we need technology. We need the material side. We do get it, but not when it controls you, and it dictates the way you think, approach as well. But I just, yeah, I think once. I mean, this is why I think for the UFO disclosure or getting something like that, I think that could be the one thing to unite us globally, and especially if it's, and it is, well, spiritual spiritual phenomena as well, then that will open up people's eyes and then maybe start to get them to look inwards, and try to be more compassionate, and just not be so focused on the things that don't matter, because there's a lot of things that we focus on that don't matter, whether it's Netflix. And I'm a victim to it as well, 100%, right? But I mean, I'm trying my best to kind of break away from it, or at least manage it in many ways as well. And I'm meditating and all those different things. But there's people that they choose not to do it. But I think it's going to take something. It's going to take something very big to unite us all, especially when we behave this particular way as well. So you don't sound like it's going to be happening too soon. More like it's going to be more of a bit more of a pilgrimage.
I think it's going to happen in our lifetime, because if you do the calculation, it only took 40 or 60 years after Enoch was taken by the Theoubans that Noah was instructed to build an ark. So Michel Desmarquet wrote a book in 1989 and got it published in 1993. So if you do the calculations, it's probably going to happen in our lifetime. But the book also provides a solution to all the problems of the world. The solution is nonviolent resistance. Nonviolence is the key, similar to what Martin Luther King preached and what Gandhi did in India.
Yeah.
So if you really think about it, it's really a very good way to solve the problems that we see nowadays. The financiers control everything, like they control the major corporations through different holdings of shares, and they need us. They need the slave laborers to work for them in order for them to continuously profit themselves. If we have a strike, if we unite and have a peaceful strike, if we stopped everything, we would lose very little individually. The poor people, us, we are going to lose very little, but the financiers are going to lose humongously, because they really need us to profit more themselves.
Yeah.
So this is actually the best way to solve everything, but everyone needs to know this. They need to have the knowledge, and they need to take actions, and collective actions.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I do recall that they did reference Martin Luther and Gandhi as well, and what they did, and the person that stood in front of a tank as well on the exactly. So yeah, well, hopefully there's going to be. I mean, as I said, I think the UFO thing could be something that unites us, and also creates a new form of leadership for people who want to do this for the better of mankind, and because we could have been so much better as a civilization right now, advanced technologically as well. I think if we had people in command who actually cared for I'd say care, because I do think some of the people in the thing, they do care, but I think it's warped, and they're probably under pressure as well because they've got other people against them, and you get lost in the race and you forget who you are, and next thing you know, you're doing and behaving in particular ways that you didn't think you would be. So I think that everyone is born good, and I think through a series of events and circumstances, people evolve and they end up becoming corrupted over time. But then that's when you need the courage to be like, my foot's going down now. I need to stay true to what my mum and dad said to me years ago, or I need to look at my background and where I've come from, and do that as well, because it can be tempting and it's easier as well to kind of get lost in that as well. So, but you're thinking it's going to be happening in our lifetime, which is great because I think it's all coming together. I think we're at a weird time right now. I mean, when I say that out loud, it feels strange, but do you think we're at a time now where there is major transformation?
Um, I hope that happens for the better. But there are also opposing forces in which it leads to a different book that I happen to translate from German to English.
Okay.
And it's called 334 Lies, LIES. It's a book written by the former highest degree chair of a secret society that was founded in Germany. And that book explains that organization, the secret society, which I later confirmed to be the Illuminati, how they operate, how they became the opposing force um, of the what we are trying to do. And actually, I suspect, this is just my personal suspicion, that 9/11 that happened in 2001,
Hmm.
and then the event that happened 4 or 5 years ago, and also some of the current conflicts in the world are actually indirectly or directly manipulated or directed by this group of people. It's a very kind of dark book, but explains how the organization operates. It's not for the faint of the heart. Um, but I think for the people who are advanced or initiated, they need to have the knowledge to know that who we are working against.
Yeah. No, I agree completely. Okay, and from your side as well, what other? I mean, actually, here's a question: What is your? Have you had any kind of UFO experiences yourself in general, like, or spiritual experiences that relate to it? I guess.
No, I don't have any direct experience or contact with ETs or UFOs, but I vaguely remember before I was born, I was very confident that I was able to change the world in order to move up the ladder. Because
Mm,
I knew that if I do something good for the world, then I would evolve more spiritually and to move up the ladder, hopefully to unite or reunite with the great ether.
yeah,
Um, but then I now see that it takes a lot of work to do that. I have to navigate the system because there are opposing forces.
yeah. Are you talking politically or more like spiritual forces? Both.
It's actually the force that runs everything behind the scenes. The force that actually in that book, the 334 Lies, in that book, it talks about no major politician will be elected without their approval. And I do believe that,
Mm,
after so many years of research and investigation, I do know that, there's a U.S. researcher called Dr. John Coleman, Coleman, who wrote a book, The Committee of 300, that talks about how they influence the elections of the world, how about like 50% of the president of the US are actually decided by them, and
mm,
almost 100% of the secretary of states of the US government were decided by them, the 300 people or so. And it's so intelligence information, like people who were working in the intelligence world, and through their own research and information, they came into this conclusion. It's not just conspiracy theory; it's specific research with credible information. So I do think that the world doesn't appear to be what most
Yeah,
people think about.
absolutely. Well, for you, Samuel, I would say keep going, stay strong, listen to your gut. You know that you know how it is, right? I mean, I know it's difficult because I'm in a space right now when out of my circle of friends, and I was speaking to a friend before as well, and I was like, "Do you know anyone out of your circle of friends and family who is talking about UFOs and spirituality and consciousness the way I do?" Is like, no. Like, what about you, other friend? You have, no one knows anyone, and I'm not trying to say egotistical because it's very niche and it can be difficult because it can be quite isolating as well sometimes. But as I said, for me, it's every time I try to pull away from this subject, I've been pushed back into it with vengeance. So I've just accepted it now, and I'm just gonna go with it. And whatever happens, well, I've got my own projects and stuff happening, so I'll take that for you as well as a suggestion.
Yeah, and I know how it is like because I used to live in London. I know how busy people are.
Yeah,
Always working very fast, faster than people in Los Angeles.
that's me. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And yeah, sometimes I'm going to find a way to bring the message to them. I'm going to work on that. Yeah.
What's up? What other projects do you have? What else? I know you're working on some other translations as well. Is there anything in particular you want to mention?
I'm just I also have a JD degree, so my next step is to pass the California bar exam and to also get tap into the world in which the world which people still believe in the mainstream media. A
Okay,
lot of lawyers and doctors that I interact with, they always busy with getting more money, but I'm trying to find a way to
that's
um,
cool.
enlighten
You're,
them.
you're
Yeah.
infiltrating. You're like a spy. You're like,
Yeah.
and then you're like, actually, I believe in this. By the way, here's the evidence, just so you know. You got to somehow go in that way. So, no, I appreciate it. I mean, do you know, I have this. There's something that's I'm battling with. Not a battle. Battle's a strong word, but like, it talks a lot about money, right? And before I was very money is I don't like the idea of it's a form of control, and I do think there's a lot of evil that's been created from it, of course. However, I do think to gain an influence and to kind of cause transformation, you do need money as well. So I think it's maybe how the person utilizes it as well. I mean, what's your thoughts on that? Do you think that's still the right way to go around it? Because we can't not use money. It's here, right? We need it. It's just the world's run. Yeah. What's your thoughts on that?
I think if people use money to influence others, that's a way that's not as effective as influence people without using money. Because if people are doing things for money, then they're doing things for money. But if
Mm,
they have the innate wish or the drive to do certain things, that's going to be more powerful than if they go after money. So
yeah.
I think there's a you know a lot of people try to do something in China and to change the leadership or something like that. If they use money, they're only going to do that in a certain extent. To a certain extent, they're not able to have lasting fundamental changes because people were looking for money.
Mm.
But if people really want to change from their inner heart, then things are going to happen much more easily.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, because I'm thinking that I mean I have I always for me it was more about always going in internally and doing something for the greater good. But I feel like you do need some sort of influence or maybe financial backing to share that message just because the way it is. But if it's for the greater good, then it's okay. But I don't know if that's still the right way to kind of perceive it.
Mm. I think you can try that, but I'm going to try to do that without money because I could have spent a lot of money to do that, but I think that's not going to be
Yeah.
helpful for the inner enlightenment.
Yeah, I mean, I earn great money in my job. I was just made redundant actually about a month ago. IT stuff is normal, but I was earning fantastic money, and it still never really hit home. I was like, okay, whatever. It never really lit me up that way as well. So I completely get the need to kind of look internally and kind of look at those different things as well, because you can't put money on that, or there's no value on that, as opposed to the money itself. So.
And actually, from the return of investment perspective, the money is better spent on helping the poor, helping the needy,
Yeah,
than just getting a book published or something like that. Because I tried to get a book published in China and also in other countries too, and I didn't pay the publishers because I think they have to really want to get a book published. But I think the money is probably better spent in helping the people who really need help.
absolutely. Yeah. I mean, like Elon Musk, a lot of people are a bit unsure on him, but I think what he's been doing in terms of trying to colonize, which he might be our local person, right, to take us aboard to another place. So I think that's a great use of money, trying to colonize another planet and even trying to take us advanced through that. So that's my idea. But anyway, I'm still working with it, right? I'm still internally taking it in and stuff. As I said, I need to let it season and soak. So I'm just in the fridge at the moment, letting it season, the chicken. So but that's cool. Okay, fantastic. So look, where can we find all your stuff, Samuel? Where can we get your links? Yeah.
You can find me on Facebook. Just search my name; they're able to find me. And also, the book can be found on Amazon. Just search the title. It's also on Audible. So if people want to listen to the audio version of the book, it's available. It's read actually by a British person.
Really? Okay, cool.
So the messages are important if the reader has a British accent. This was, I think.
Clearly.
Yes.
Yeah. More gravitas.
Yes.
Okay, and are you you're on LinkedIn and stuff like that? You're on Twitter as well. So I'll include all your social profiles in the description as well. Before we finish, is there anything you want to say?
Yeah, just wish people to, if they see challenges in their personal life or relationship or financial life, just look inside for answers, because that way you can find a solution if it's going to be helpful for spiritual development. You really don't need an intermediary agency, for example, an organized religion or the political leaders to get the answers. Just look inside.
Absolutely, that is gospel, and that's something I've realized as well. I'm like, I've got the answers. I just need to look internally. It may be a bit difficult sometimes, but that's where everything is. So great advice there. Well, look, Samuel, it's been a fantastic conversation. I really appreciate you coming on board and speaking with me today. I'll leave all the links to you, and everyone do check out this book. It is super interesting as well. But yeah, look, you take care, and we'll speak soon. Okay.
Great. Thank you.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.